So we have all of these players assembling, but actually at the beginning of the Iliad does not begin at the beginning of the Trojan War. It starts in the 10th year of the war. Any, like, epic poetry that tells of the other 9 years seems to have been lost to time. But if it helps, things probably don't get that interesting until now anyway. For the 9 years, it's mostly a siege. This is not just 10 years of straight fighting. The walls of Troy are basically impenetrable. Like, they were apparently built by Apollo and Poseidon after Zeus grounded them to the mortal world for a year for trying to overthrow him again. So they built the walls of Troy. Basically, the Greek army just has to sit out there. It's a siege. Years. Speaking of Zeus. So there are some fragments of, obviously there's other epic poetry that does talk about the period between this context and the beginning of the Iliad. There's kind of a prequel that was likely written after the Iliad because the pieces we do have and the way that, like, people who were able to read it before it got lost to time talk about it, it seems to emphasize certain events that, like, will be called back to in the Iliad. And so it seems like a prequel. It's called the Cypria. One of the fragments that we still have, probably near the start of this, like, prequel-ish epic poem, says explicitly that the Trojan War was Zeus's population control plan all along. And if you recall, the opening lines of the Iliad say that all this is the will of Zeus. So whatever the mortals are actually fighting about, clearly some kind of war is the will of the unassailable king of the gods, which, like we were talking about, raises the question, do they really have a choice anyway? But thus begins the Iliad. The first word in ancient Greek, in the ancient Greek version of the Iliad, is rage. The line basically translates to sing, goddess of the rage of Achilles, of Peleus' son Achilles. They mention people a lot by, like, their parentage. So, like I said, it begins with an appeal to the muse, maybe muses, for help in this recitation, which I'm really not surprised. As a live performer, people usually have, like, some kind of ritual. Live performance is terrifying. And so if you have a deity that can help you through it, I'm just saying the opening lines of the Iliad being like, hey, goddess, muse, help me tell this story right. Absolutely tracks as a theater person. It's all about the anger of Achilles. The first few lines are like, sing of the anger of Achilles and all of the problems that it caused for the Greeks, the Achaeans. I'm going to mostly call them the Greeks, again, just for clarity. The Achaeans were one of these ethnic groups in ancient Greece. Achilles is angry, and it's causing a lot of problems. Why is he angry? He's angry at a lot of things, but we're going to start with this fight between him and King Agamemnon. Why are they fighting? It's Apollo's fault. Because Apollo has sent a plague upon the Greek army, and that's what set off this whole thing. Well, not really. He sent the plague for a reason. A man named Chryses, it's not spelled like the plural of the word crisis, but, I mean, kinda. He has come to the Achaeans, the Greeks, to get his daughter back. Because she has been captured by their army, not because she's a soldier, but because they just sacked the city of Chryse. It's the same name as the priest, so easy to remember. And took a bunch of stuff, and among that stuff that they took are a pair of beautiful young women. They are called in the text Briseis and Chryseis, which mean daughter of Briseis and Chryses, respectively. Chryseis, obviously, is Chryses' daughter. We don't know what their names are. Later sources give her name as Astynome. I wanted to say Astynome because that's probably where the stress would have been in ancient Greek. Anyway, so my point is they are pretty much only known by their patronymics. Just literally Chryses' daughter and Briseis' daughter. I'd like to use their real names, just to humanize them a little bit more because they are people. Astynome, not also, by the way, not to be confused with Astynome, the mother of Calydon, who also saw Artemis bathing, so she turned him into a rock. Bummer. And his mom was named Astanomi. But this is a different Astanomi. Astanomi. So, while the army was dividing up all of the loot that they got, while they were sacking the city of Chryse, Briseis and Chryse. It's easier to just say their names. Also, by the way, Briseis' real name is reportedly Hippodamia. She also had a husband and child. The husband, I don't know if she had a child actually. Her husband was killed in the whole sacking thing, and now she's just basically been kidnapped. So Hippodamia is Briseis, and Astanomi is Chryseis. There. Those are easier to differentiate anyway. So, while they were dividing up the loot, Astanomi was allotted to King Agamemnon, and Hippodamia was allotted to Achilles. Yes, they are war spoils. They are essentially slaves now, except, at least for Astanomi, thankfully, her dad Chryses has come down here to get his daughter back. I guess Hippodamia can just deal with it, but he is willing to trade. He has brought a bunch of ransom money to buy her freedom back, and he asks very respectfully, and literally all the other soldiers unanimously want to honor his request, except for Agamemnon, who is the guy that is now in possession of Astanomi. And this is war, and not democracy. So Agamemnon tells him to go soak his head. Very rudely, even though Chryses was very polite. And also, Agamemnon kind of rubs it in. Like, he basically tells Chryses, your daughter is gonna spend the rest of her life in my bed, so get used to it. Which, like, he really did not need to be that gross about it. But he's a king, so I guess he's used to getting his way. You know, politeness is for peasants. I don't know that it would have made a difference if he wasn't polite, considering that Agamemnon is totally cool with just enslaving this girl for funsies, but that turns out to be a big mistake. Because Chryses has some powerful friends. And by friends, I mean he's a priest of Apollo. He prays to Apollo and asks him to bring down vengeance upon the Greeks for kidnapping and enslaving his daughter. And Apollo actually agrees. Apollo looks down at this and is like, yo, dude, that is kind of messed up, actually. So that's why he sent the plague. He starts shooting his arrows, you know, him and Artemis have the whole archery thing, twins. He starts shooting his arrows at the Greeks for like a week and a half, bringing down this terrible plague. First, it kills their mules and their dogs, which, like, they didn't do anything. Yeah, Agamemnon's basically the leader of the Achaeans, the Greeks. Except Agamemnon doesn't get sick, but everybody else does. Like, none of the human soldiers were guilty either. But it just seems cruel that they made the animals sick first. Although maybe this is just a historical thing, because a lot of the time, new diseases hop over from animals. Anyway, every single one of those soldiers wanted to give Astanomi back. But Agamemnon was like, shut up, I'm in charge, I do what I want. It does get to the point, though, that so many are dying that they have to burn funeral pyres literally 24/7. I guess 24/9 because it lasts for 9 days until finally Hera from up on Mount Olympus, and she likes Achilles. She also likes Agamemnon. I don't know why, but maybe she just likes Achilles because he's a demigod that isn't fathered by her husband. Anyway, so Hera is finally like, hey, Achilles, your fellow soldiers are like dying horribly. Like, do you know if Agamemnon is gonna do something about that? If he isn't, maybe you should, as like the best fighter in the Greek army. And Achilles is like, oh man, yeah, that is a good idea. So he calls everybody together. I'm sure he doesn't want to die of the plague either. I don't know why he didn't think of this before. Agamemnon didn't even get the plague. Why didn't Apollo send punishment down on him? I guess Chryses just didn't really know his name and was like, just punish all of them. I do not blame him for being mad. So Achilles has to take the initiative because Agamemnon is probably still off creeping on Astanomi or something. He calls everybody together and he is like, family meeting, army meeting. We gotta figure out why Apollo is mad at us. People are dying. Has anyone broken a promise or neglected sacrifices or anything like that? Has anyone had any dreams that might explain this? Apollo is the god of prophecy. Does anyone know what's going on? Because if we're gonna be struck with plague, we might as well just go home and stop besieging the city of Troy because we're all dying. Agamemnon, do you have any input on this? Being the commander of the army that is dying with the Greeks is this guy named Calchas, who is a prophet. Not a cursed one like Cassandra. He's a regular prophet. I guess he's buddies with Apollo. He has not been saying anything about this, for reasons that will become clear in a moment. He is the one who, like, guided the Greeks to Troy in the first place. He has the gift of prophecy. So he knows what's going on. I imagine Apollo probably told him. I like the idea that he's just like Apollo's venting buddy. He stands up and he's like, hey, Achilles, I know why the plague is happening. But before I tell you, you gotta promise not to shoot the messenger, because I really don't want to be the one that King Agamemnon takes his anger out on. So I will tell you, but you have to promise to protect me from him. Again, Agamemnon's kind of aggressive. So Achilles is like, yes, of course, I genuinely just want to know what's going on so people can stop dying. I promise to personally ensure your safety, even from Agamemnon. I just want to make this plague stop. And so Calchas is like, all right, frankly speaking, Apollo isn't angry about broken promises or sacrifices. He's angry that Agamemnon was such a jerk to his priest and wouldn't give him his daughter back, even in exchange for a ransom. He was very polite. The plague isn't going to stop until you go give Astanomi back to Chryses for free. Should probably make some sacrifices too, just in case. Agamemnon, I guess, has heard by now and come over. I don't think one needs the gift of prophecy to predict that he's not going to be happy about this. This is... because Calchas basically just said this is his fault for being a jerk and also enslaving. How do you actually spell her name? Astanomi? Astynome. Anyway, so Agamemnon gets up and he is glaring daggers at Calchas. And he's like, of course you would say this is my fault. You always do this. All of the prophecies that you give about me always seem to be bad news. You sure seem to like it when I have bad luck. Maybe you are giving bad prophecies about me on purpose, which I don't think that's fair. Apollo says what Apollo says. Agamemnon is being a jerk. He's like, of course the plague is my fault. I finally find a girl that I like better than my own wife even. Which... ouch, dude. He's like, you guys want me to give her up. Fine. Just so people will stop dying. For the sake of the lives of our men, I will give her back. But you guys better find me another prize. I'm the king. I'm not going to be the only one here without proper spoils of war. And Achilles is like, we have already distributed the spoils. You can't just take stuff back. We have already divided it. If we get to sack Troy, you can have your pick of the loot, but right now, just give Astanomi back. And Agamemnon's like, easy for you to say. No one's trying to take away your slave girl. I want your captive. In my head, he just looks, if you guys have read Calvin and Hobbes, you know that one strip where they're like making art and Hobbes is like, I want a smock! That's what he looks like in my head, demanding Hippodamia in exchange. So, Agamemnon is like, fine, I will give Astanomi back, but you have to give me Hippodamia. Again, Agamemnon, these are people. He doesn't care. And Achilles is like, are you 2 years old? You literally always get the best stuff and the biggest share of the loot whenever we sack cities, even though I do way more fighting than you do. And you don't hear me complaining, which is true. Achilles is their best warrior and everybody knows it. I didn't even personally have a problem with the Trojans. I came here for you guys, which he did. They got him out of hiding on Skyros. And Achilles is like, I did not come here to line your pockets, Agamemnon. Maybe I'll just go home with my ships. Agamemnon is like, fine, leave. I don't care. I have plenty of men who show me the proper honor. You can swing a sword, but you're always ticked off and arguing with me, and I don't need that energy. Go ahead and run home to your mommy. I will give Astanomi back, but I'm gonna take Hippodamia from your tent instead, and you can try and stop me. Dangerous words to say to Achilles, but before he can decide whether to restrain himself or just kill Agamemnon right here, right now, Athena appears to him. Only to him. No one else can see this. I guess she's just cast time stop or something. She has been sent again by Hera, who, like I said, cares about both Achilles and Agamemnon and is just sick of them fighting. So she grabs Achilles by his blonde hair and drags him off like, We need to talk. Achilles is like, what? Are you here to watch me kill Agamemnon? And Athena's like, shut up. Hera sent me here specifically to tell you not to kill Agamemnon. She cares about both of you. Let this go right now, and eventually your reward will be tripled. I'm not saying you have to, like, just take this. By all means, tell him off. But you are not allowed to kill him. Achilles is still really mad, but he knows better than to disobey a direct order from the gods. So he puts his sword back in his sheath, and Athena returns to Mount Olympus. He does tell Agamemnon off, though. He goes back and calls the king a drunken, dog-faced coward and vows that Agamemnon will regret insulting him like this. He goes, when the Trojans are tearing your men to pieces and you can't do a thing about it, think back to this moment and know that you brought it on yourself, Agamemnon. He vows to never fight for Agamemnon again. And Agamemnon is about to fire right back, but it's at this point that Nestor steps in. He is also a king, specifically of Pylos, and he is the oldest of everybody here, pretty much. He has seen the birth and passing of 2 generations. He's not really here for fighting energy. He's pretty old, but he does have a lot of wisdom, and he's a smooth talker. And so he's like, all right, guys. Despite all the quarreling going on, he is calm and rational. He is like ancient Greek Abraham Lincoln. He's like, boys, are you here to fight each other or to fight Trojans? He tells Agamemnon to grow up, take the L, let Hippodameia stay with Achilles, and tells Achilles to quit arguing because Agamemnon is technically king and thus in charge of way more people than he is. But he does remind Agamemnon that Achilles is his very best warrior. By a lot. Agamemnon, again, does not like this, and is like, is Achilles the king here, or am I the king here? When the gods made him a great warrior, did they also give him a 2-for-1 on being a massive jerk? Just because he's a good fighter doesn't mean he can sass me, I'm the king. And Achilles is like, well, you're not king of me anymore. Take Hippodameia, I don't care, I'm done dealing with you. Unless you try to steal anything from my ships, then the dealing will be done with the business end of my spear. At least the argument's kind of over. Agamemnon is like, fine, and storms off, and Achilles is like, fine, and storms off in the other direction, presumably towards his ships. Agamemnon does indeed free Astynomi and sends her with Odysseus back to her father, plus 100 sacrificial cattle for good measure, which is, I believe, the exact same sacrifice he promised Aphrodite that one time and didn't give her. They make sacrifices at the camp, too, to hopefully appease Apollo and get him to stop killing people. And then he sends men to go get Hippodameia from Achilles' tent. The messengers are understandably pretty nervous because Achilles is the best fighter, and he's really ticked right now. But Achilles is actually very polite to them. He's like, hey, I am not going to blame you guys for the actions of your master just because he is a jerk. But he does say, Agamemnon better hope he doesn't need my help ever again. It's too bad he's incompetent at strategy because I'm not going to fight for him anymore. Patroclus is bringing a reluctant Hippodameia. Achilles is like, you guys are all witnesses to my vow right now that I will never fight for Agamemnon again. And after all is said and done, and Hippodameia is off to her fate, Achilles goes down to the seashore to pray to his mother, Thetis. Achilles does seem to like his mom enough to go pray to her for help. I guess he's forgiven her for putting him in the literal fire as an infant. Like Agamemnon told him, he does kind of go cry to his mom, which, you know, that's a whole phrase, but I feel like that should not necessarily be a shameful thing. I know that it's kind of associated with childishness, but when you're sad, if you have a good relationship with your mom, it can really help to go get advice and comfort from your mother. So that's kind of not a nice phrase. Anyway, Thetis finds him weeping on the seashore and is quite caring and sympathetic for a woman who may have repeatedly tried to kill him in his infancy. She wants to know why he's crying. She wants to help him bear whatever suffering is upsetting him like this. Achilles brings up the whole prophecy thing about how he is going to live either a long and obscure life or a short and glorious one. It seems he's chosen his path. But he's really ticked off now that at least his short but glorious life is not going to include Hippodamia as his war prize slave. He vents to Thetis about everything that's happened so far, and especially about Agamemnon bullying him out of the woman that he rightfully stole, and asks Thetis if she can talk Zeus into helping the Trojans defeat the Greeks. That's petty. He knows Thetis has done Zeus a favor or two before, despite some accounts saying that she rejected his advances and he got mad and made her marry a mortal as a punishment. She did help him not get overthrown one time when Poseidon and Athena and Hera, like, while Zeus was sleeping, they chained him up, and Thetis called one of the 100-handed ones, specifically Briareus or Aegeon. He has a couple of names. The point is, he has 100 hands. He is extremely strong, so he was able to break the chains they bound Zeus with and help him take back his throne, so Zeus kind of owes her. So hopefully by now he's over her not getting with him. Thetis is crying now too. She is very sympathetic. She also is regretting ever having given birth to Achilles, that he should be this sad, and that his life should be this short and frustrating, and agrees to go try and convince Zeus to punish the army of the Greeks for Agamemnon's actions, right after he gets back from his business trip in 12 days. And by business trip, I mean he's gone to feast with the Ethiopians. I don't know who the Ethiopians are, but that's where he is, apparently. Meanwhile, Odysseus is bringing Astynomi back to her father and also offering those sacrifices to Apollo in hopes that he will stop sending that horrible plague. Chryses only wanted his daughter back, and he is quite happy to help them sacrifice the 100 oxen and pray to Apollo on their behalf, like, hey, Apollo, thank you for plaguing the Greeks into bringing my daughter back. They brought her back. You can stop now. And then they sacrifice and feast and worship and sing hymns for the rest of the day. And Apollo forgives them and puts a nice wind in their sails as they head back. Sounds like a really nice time, actually, unless you're one of the oxen. Achilles spends the whole day sulking in his tent. I get why he's frustrated. Also, he's not fighting anymore, so it's not like he's gonna go train or do anything army-y. He is done with this. Time skip 12 days. Thetis goes up to Olympus early in the morning to find Zeus just sitting by himself. He's just chilling before someone tries to overthrow him again. He's just chilling, and Thetis sits before him, before his knees in this... It's kind of important in the Iliad, like this posture of supplication. That'll be more important later, just remember that. Thetis asks for the favor that Achilles wanted. She's like, so my son is tragically doomed to die young, and his commander is a terrible person. So, Zeus, could you please tilt the scales in favor of the Trojans and make the Greek army regret dishonoring my son? And Zeus just kind of doesn't respond. He just sits there, and Thetis is like, do you hate me? Finally, he's like, okay. He explains that his wife is already kind of ticked at him for all of the favor that she says he's already been showing to the Trojans. And it's kind of embarrassing because she keeps going off at him in front of all the other gods. So if he's going to do this for Achilles, Hera cannot find out. But he promises he'll do it. Just get out of here before his wife wakes up. And Thetis does as he asks, but when Zeus goes back inside, Hera immediately calls him out. Like, despite the fact that Thetis might be the one goddess everywhere that is safe from Zeus's womanizing, for now, Hera can tell that Zeus has been hanging out with her, and she is not happy. I really can't blame her. Aside from her, has Zeus ever hung out with a woman and not attempted to seduce her? He's only not trying to get with Thetis because there's a prophecy that she will have a son who is greater than his father, and Zeus knows dang well that if he gets with her and she has a son and that son is greater than him, he's gonna get overthrown. But Hera wants to know what he's been up to. He's always doing secret things, she says, and never tells her what, probably because he's usually cheating on her. And Zeus tells her that she shouldn't expect to always know what he's up to. She may be his wife, but she just wouldn't understand what he's working on. When it is something for her to hear, she'll be the first to know it, But if he wants to keep something to himself, she needs to leave him alone and stop prying and asking questions. And Hera wants to know what her husband has been up to with Thetis, because he is always messing around, in every sense of the word, behind her back. Oddly enough, she's not even accusing him of cheating on her right now. Even though he's literally Zeus, I guess she knows about the whole prophecy thing. She's pretty sure he's been talking to Thetis about tipping the scales in favor of the Trojans, because Achilles wants revenge. She already knows what's going on. She's a goddess. Either she saw Zeus talking to Thetis, or she's just a really good guesser. Divine guessing skills. That would be quite the boon. Should have offered Paris that one. That would... Imagine being offered a boon by the gods and it's just, you will always own at pub trivia. Achilles is, like, punishing the whole Greek army for something Agamemnon did. Didn't he just say to those messengers that he doesn't blame them for Agamemnon's actions? I don't think Achilles has thought it through that far, though. Clearly. Anyway, Zeus says he's not going to tell her, and continuing to ask will only make him hate her more, so she better shut up and drop it, or he's gonna start some domestic violence. Told you that Zeus is even worse than we thought. This scares Hera into silence. But now everybody on Mount Olympus can kind of feel the tension between her and Zeus. You know, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. But in this case, it's Zeus, because he's Zeus. So Hephaestus, their son, well, depending on the account, sometimes Hephaestus is only the son of Hera, like parthenogenesis, like just virgin birth. It's not, you know what I mean. And in some, he's the son of Zeus and Hera. But anyway, he comes up to intervene because when the king and queen of the gods fight, it causes problems for everybody else. Zeus takes it out on everybody. And Hephaestus is like, you should just apologize, because Dad is by far the most powerful of all of us. If he wanted to dethrone us, he could just chuck us off Mount Olympus. He knows this very well, because he did get chucked off Mount Olympus by many accounts. Like, he was born, and either Hera or Zeus, again, depending on the account, was like, this baby's ugly, and just drop-kicked him off Mount Olympus. And that is why Hephaestus has the disabilities that he does. My point is, Hephaestus is like, everybody is scared of Zeus. When he is mad, he takes it out on everybody else. And Hephaestus knows this better than anybody. Also, he says he loves his mom and doesn't want to see her suffer the same thing he did. So it will be best for everyone if she can just keep Zeus happy. Because when he's in a good mood, everything is great, and they can all just enjoy being gods. As long as Zeus isn't threatening people with domestic violence. This is not a healthy relationship of any kind, but Hephaestus did bring Hera a drink. I don't know if it actually does make her feel better, but she does smile and accept the drink. And it seems everything calms down and the gods have a nice party for the rest of the day, and they drink and feast and enjoy being ultra-powerful immortals and listen to the music of Apollo and the Muses. And after the sun goes down, they all go back to their houses, all of which, by the way, were built by Hephaestus, and they go to bed, including Zeus and Hera. And that's the end of Book 1 of the Iliad. Don't be like Zeus, or Theseus, or Agamemnon. There's just a lot of bad role models in the Iliad. So, thank you for being here. It would not be the same without you guys. So, thank you again. I really do appreciate the click. I hope it was worth hanging around for. Thank you again. I hope you have a wonderful day or night, whatever time it is for you. Stay safe, and I will see you soon.